We already know World of Warcraft's coming to console, right? Or I should say console's coming to World of Warcraft in 2027 with the new Xbox that's supposed to play like a PC. Well, we could be getting it even sooner than that. WoW coming to console sooner than we thought with Valve's new system. That's right, a replacement of the Switch. What is this? Let's check out what Valve is doing out there and how they're bringing PC games to your controller and your TV.
Everyone, this is it. The Gabe Cube is real. A decade in the making, Valve have finally revealed the long-anticipated Steam machines. Of course, this is not the first time they've tried to do Steam machines, but what it is the most serious one. It's a culmination of work on the Steam Deck, the SteamOS platform, and even the Steam Store. And that means that once more, Valve are coming for your living room. But I think this time, they're set up to be a hell of a lot more successful. They'll be doing it the same way that they took over PC gaming in the first place, and if rumors are to be believed, that really is a true statement, because apparently they'll be launching a new Half-Life game in this thing.
Damn.
I don't know if that much is true, but these are wild times. This will shake up the industry.
Half-Life typically is a pretty graphically intense game, so this thing's going to have a really good graphics card in it. It's going to have some high-end system stuff. I wonder, do we know the cost yet? Has Steam, I guess he'll say it in the video if they have or haven't, but that's going to be a big thing, because if this thing actually acts like what I've kind of described with the new Xbox, like a entry-level gaming PC, right, like a really good sub $1,000 price, even if it's like $800 or something, that would be cheap for a PC these days. $800 these days for a gaming PC is a freaking steal, because the graphics card alone freaking costs more than that now. So it would be crazy. It's $3,060. I don't think that would be insane. What the hell? They haven't, but they predicted about 1,000. 1,000 would be pretty good too, for an entry-level, gaming PC. We'll see what it actually ends up costing. But to run a new Half-Life game, it's going to have some good specs, that's for sure.
And to Gabe, I suppose, happy sailing. You may not know this, but Steam machines actually already existed. They failed 10 years ago. Basically, a dozen different versions were announced in 2015, alongside a controller, the Steam Link, and the Vive headset.
I remember these things.
And by 2015, they were hailed as the future of gaming. Basically, a living room PC that Valve would build
3060
alongside
GPU,
companies with experience.
That makes more sense.
They actually had an early version of SteamOS, which brought Linux to the masses. They had this fancy new controller with trackpads to replace the keyboard and mouse, but it was honestly a disaster. The bespoke Linux operating system caused, quote, 21 to 58% frame drops. That's pretty bad, and that was happening in the very few games that actually supported it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
One of the core reasons.
If they are selling it as a console, that'll be a big loss if it's only 1K. It could be a loss leader for them, maybe. I mean, what you would essentially be doing is, this is really going to be marketed not to people who are fucking degens, play WoW 24/7 and built their own PC. Like, that's not who's going to buy this thing. They're going to market it to your Call of Duty Andys, your bros, your gym guys, these guys, these are the people that they'll try to get this, because they're not PC Andys yet. And what you're doing essentially is, if they do buy this thing as their next console, what you've now done is you've brought them into the SteamOS ecosystem, right? So now they're going to start buying Steam games. Bam, you now have a customer for life in Steam. So I think they're willing to make this thing a loss leader if it means they can expand their the amount of people that use Steam out there. That's what this thing's going to be for, really. I mean, for me, like, I'm not looking to buy one myself necessarily, but maybe I would buy one for my son, for the younger guy, who he wants a gaming PC, but I'm not willing really to drop right now like $2,000 to $3,000 on a gaming PC for my 8-year-old. So if there's like this, console replacement out there for $1,000, maybe that's not as bad. That's not as hard as a pill to swallow.
Why they decided to do Steam machines back then.
Will Greg buy it? His wife wouldn't let him buy this. No way.
That was Windows 8. It truly looked like the desktop PC format was going in a bad direction. So because of that, Steam machines were going to be a thing. But obviously by the time they came out, Windows 10 was a thing, and Windows 10 was not as bad as Windows 8. So the average consumer felt less pressure to shift over. Then there's the controller. It was divisive. I have a soft spot for it personally. I was actually playing World of Warcraft on the damn thing, but it was divisive.
The touchpad was any sort of touchpad gameplay is kind of weird. It's just hard to game with a touchpad. I don't know. You like the tactile feedback of an actual knob or something, or a nub or nipple. I don't know what you want to call it, but rubbing that thing. That's right. So yeah, playing touchpad's never going to be, I think, an optimal way to game.
Then there's the Steam Link. It was a $30 home streaming device. Pretty cool little thing. You could basically play games in your living room without needing a whole new PC because it would just stream from your PC. And if we're to take that all in, what we see is a real ambitious set of hardware, just not really that well positioned in the market. As an example, the game business now estimates that fewer than 400,000 Steam machines sold in total. Soon, hardware partners abandoned the project. There were poor sales, poor partnerships with Valve, and a lack of interest. And that led to Valve retreating from everything but VR. Obviously now, 10 years have passed, and things are very different indeed. And I'll add to that, even down to Windows massively pissing everyone off. I don't know if you've seen the recent Windows 11 headlines, they're not good, and obviously for Valve, that is amazing. Let's talk about the new hardware. We're really seeing history repeat, where we get a new controller.
Yeah, you could play in the bathroom. I mean, that's a throwback. You've always been able to play with your own joystick in the bathroom if you wanted to. Now you can do it with Steam, sure. Steam machines in general, that whole streaming to your TV thing, I had that set up in my own house with the NVIDIA Shield. If you guys know what that is, it's essentially the same thing. It just broadcasts your PC onto your TV. The problem with it is you basically got to have a hardwired internet connection both ways. And if you don't, it just doesn't work that well. Like, I had it running over Wi-Fi from my basement PC where my internet is right here to my garage where I was trying to broadcast my PC on my TV in my garage. I have like a little man cave set up there. And I just wanted to be able to play my PC while chilling on the couch and smoking hookah. But the problem was, like, the internet connection was just not good enough over Wi-Fi to really stream without a weird kind of delay. Like, it's like you can tell it's there. You could feel it. And I tried to play WoW a little bit. It was all right. I used the lapdog keyboard. It worked, but it was just awkward. And then sometimes you'd get DC'd, and it just wasn't an optimal thing. Now, I mean, I feel like, technology is catching up. Wi-Fi is getting faster. This was a couple of years ago. It's all getting better. So now, I mean, that was maybe just came out too soon for its time. But now it feels like, yeah, okay, that makes more sense now. And now these console versions of PCs, that's even better because then you're running the shit right there. You're not broadcasting it from your PC somewhere else.
A new VR headset and the Steam machines. These were all announced at once, and they're going to be shipping in early 2026. Now, the controller essentially builds on the Steam Deck and then some of the things that they've learned from their VR headsets, where I can certainly say the haptics were absolutely god tier. So, it polishes the design, it adds in some new features. We've got magnetic drift.
It was more like a TV
sticks,
box, the Shield,
gyro
you're right.
support, and then there's the Steam frame. It's adding more remote streaming with optimized eye tracking. That's all in a way that should be fairly amazing for performance. I don't want to undersell how cool the eye tracking rendering stuff is, but what it also does is huge. It brings ARM support to SteamOS. That is absolutely vital. I do say that as someone with a laptop that is running an ARM chipset. And the thing that we're basically seeing with, like, Apple Silicon is absurd performance for the heat and for the wattage. That, of course, makes it fantastic for a headset, but it does also have me thinking, well, SteamOS supports ARM. There are many laptops out there that also support ARM, so this could end up being fairly large for Steam. But obviously, the thing we really need to talk about is the Steam machines. Those have set the internet alight, calling it the Gabe Cube, an amazing name.
Yeah,
and it is really Steam coming for the living room. Now, the device itself is a black 6-inch Cube PC with a removable faceplate and a customizable light bar.
Cool.
Now, when we look at the breakdowns, you can actually see that it is 75% cooling unit by volume.
Damn.
Almost in a way
my
it's
God.
like a Mac Studio, but for gaming, something like that. It's a gorgeous piece of hardware, and we've even seen it have a e-ink front display. That's something that Valve had whenever they were building it, but I've got to imagine that when this is a real device that we can all go and buy, that we'll probably see strong aftermarket support for things like that. Now, of course, in theory, you can build a competitor to this thing right now. You can just go and build a mini ITX PC.
Yeah, for sure.
You may be wondering then, what is the big deal with this?
I built one myself. I built a mini ITX. It was like this big, probably. I mean, if I had to like measure it to my PC, maybe a quarter of the size of this whole PC. The problem for one is the heat. You got to worry about heat all the time with those things. I think I had put a 30 series graphics card in it, and it was built with parts that were given to me, and it was cool. I mean, it was cool, but it costs way more than what this is probably going to cost. Again, if they sell what's going to sell this thing is the price. If it's at $1,000 or less, this thing gonna sell for sure.
Well, I'll lay it out. This is a mini PC that is running SteamOS. just like the Steam Deck. Now that's the same SteamOS that this year was shown to run games better than Windows. But the difference is that this is on a machine that is, according to Valve, 6 times more powerful than a Steam Deck. And to quote one of their engineers who was talking about the performance targets, our benchmark has always been that it should have enough performance to play every game on Steam at 4K 60 when you do some sort of upscaling like FSR. That does sound ambitious.
That's crazy.
Some sort of upscaling is certainly going to be doing a lot of work for some games there, but that does get us onto something else, and that is price point. This is where things are going to be extremely
make it or break
challenging. We don't know what the price is. A lot of people are hoping about 400 USD.
If they sell it for $400, that's going to change everything. There is no way. $400. I'm talking about like if I thought it would be cheap if they sell it at $800. $400 would be like they're just losing their asses on this thing. Especially if somebody said in the chat they got a 3060 in there. Oh my God. That's not even going to pay for just the graphics card. You're just losing your ass on all the other hardware too. Yeah, that would be crazy. I highly doubt it's going to come in at that price. Isn't the Xbox like $500 right now or something? The PlayStation 5? This thing will be cheaper than that? That's crazy.
It would be truly disruptive, but there are many roadblocks to a price like that. First off, there's the fairly obvious with tariffs, because look, the situation there could actually change over time. That's likely one of the reasons why Valve doesn't want to commit to pricing here. But another one is what we're seeing go on with RAM. Basically, the RAM markets are getting really crazy. Prices are absolutely spiking. And the risk for Valve would be that they could commit to a price right now, but actually find that when it comes time to do their real massive volume production runs, the price of some of that RAM will have went up. So that's probably one of the reasons why we're not seeing pricing, is basically those supply chains are a little bit of a nightmare for everyone involved.
Yeah, PC parts, like many things, they took that COVID hike and they just never really came back down. It was like these companies realized, oh, we could charge them $2K for a graphics card. They're going to pay it. These people are crazy. Why would we drop the price? Let's just keep doing it. That's what it feels like. And a lot of PC parts have gone that way. And also the supply and demand side of it. Like they just never reach demand again. I don't know if it's intentional or what's going on, because a lot of supply chain issues have been solved at this point. But now you still have supply chain issues with this stuff. So or maybe fake ones where they're just trying to keep the prices up. But either way, yeah, prices of PC parts are volatile, so I don't think they can commit to a price yet.
Though we need to remember that it's not releasing in a vacuum. It's going under your TV, ideally, right? It'll be running games at 4K. So it's basically just competing with like the PS5, maybe the PS5 Pro. Certainly, probably not against the Pro in terms of raw
tariffs
horsepower,
too right now,
very clear. And the Xbox. Those things have all had price hikes, which does mean that
if they have a $400 to $450 version of this, for sure I'm expecting there to be different versions, like levels of this thing. If they have one it's got to have like a 1080 in it or something, like ancient graphics card technology. There is no way they are going to sell something that runs 4K 60 frames per second for $400. If they do, I'm buying 2 of them. I'm just going to put one under my TV and watch TV on it at that point. $400, what the hell? That would be insane. So I think if they do have a $400 version, it's going to be like some really cheapo, okay, this is like the most basic entry level. You're going to run all your shit at a 1080p. And then if you want the 4K version, you're going to have to like pay up way more than that.
Clear. And the Xbox. Those things have all had price hikes, which does mean that they probably
can't even get a cell phone for $400 anymore.
Super low in the price. Even if they were matching the price of some of their competitors, there would be a number of very compelling reasons to go with Valve over one of the consoles. Just in terms of like aesthetics and ergonomics, I mean, it's got an internal power supply. There's no laptop style power brick. It will just pop in there very sleekly and play the majority of games just like a PS5 or an Xbox. Just that now, unlike 10 years ago with the old wave of Steam machines, loads of once exclusives are now just actually on PC.
It's true.
So it's not even it's got to face that hurdle as much. So games-wise, it'll run literally everything in your library that is currently Steam Deck compatible. And of course, that's really the big thing.
Which means WoW.
Valve have been working on this device for ages, and with the Steam Deck, they've already laid the groundwork for it. Because Valve...
Is there a version without those silly 3D glasses? That's a VR headset. That's different. That's not this console. He's just showing all the different Steam thing, like the Steam Deck he's showing right now. Valve has that headset as well. That's not part of the console. The Cube is it. That's gonna be something you hook up to your TV.
Years from the first wave of Steam machines to these, pretty much fixing everything that went wrong last time. They're clearly not making the same mistakes again, and that all starts with SteamOS. That's because on a firmware level, SteamOS has just gone from strength to strength. There is a reason why Valve's marketing is highlighting using the Steam machine as just a regular PC as well. SteamOS is honestly awesome. But in gaming terms, the Proton compatibility layer is what really matters here, because it just runs window games. Your games will just work.
Play some WoW.
And I know, pulling a Todd Howard and saying, it just works, is a little bit silly sometimes. But this is one of those rare cases where Proton really is that good. And in some cases, the games may even run better than they would in similar to Windows hardware. We've actually seen that proven on the Lenovo Legion Go S. Basically, that's a handheld that is available in both a Windows and a SteamOS version. And the SteamOS version basically tends to run things a bit better, so you get a few more frames. Now, whenever these Steam machines come out, you may have to wait a little bit to see a verified for Steam machine badge in games. That's just because developers will have to do a bit of work, right? A bit of optimization.
Sure.
But what is good here is the devs are not compiling a build natively for SteamOS, right? There's a lot of very dev-friendly things here. So you should expect generally better.
Yeah, and dev-friendly means gamer-friendly, because that means all your games should be able to port over pretty easily. Like, they're not going to have to do any back-end shit to make this thing really work on SteamOS. It should just work, as he said. It just works. That's a great thing. And that's really how a lot of the Steam stuff has worked lately. With the Steam handheld and all that, like you could just play your games, your PC games, play them in your hand. It works. And that's what's crazy about this thing. Now, whether or not Microsoft's making a play to the same arena, and they're predicting 2027 for their release. I don't know if this is going to hit the market before that. We'll see. Steam just announced this. Who knows what the timetable is for when they get this thing out. But I'm assuming they want to beat Microsoft to the punch. I would think. So maybe we get it before then.
Performance, but I'd also imagine that this will go particularly hard for what it is. Basically, it's a fairly clear hardware target. It's one that's fairly well marketed, and
maybe
for any
late
game
2026.
It's
maybe?
also extremely marketable to be able to say, hey, this runs amazing on a Steam machine. So you'll probably get benefits out of the gate, but things could get even better when we start seeing verified for Steam machine badges appear all over the place once devs actually get
Arcanus, yeah,
optimizations and go through that certification process. Though if you ask me, that stuff is really just the beginning. You see, so many of us just play Steam on our desktop PC, right? And that means that we often end up not really appreciating all the benefits that are there. So you've got Steam Cloud support, which means your saves can follow you between your main PC, your deck, and your Steam machine. Your peripherals and every controller and USB device are compatible with Steam's input mapping. You won't even have to pay for online functionality. That's another huge thing.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And
no more Xbox Live, no more PlayStation, I don't know what it is online, whatever they call it. Like all these added fees you got to pay to access the internet you already pay for. You don't got to do that here. You just play the game. You just play the game. That's amazing, right? You already have the internet. Just plug the internet into your there you go. You're good to go.
Especially huge for the console
PS
market,
Plus, yeah.
Every other console requires a monthly subscription to play online games. To us in PC, that's an absolutely goofy, ridiculous, silly thing. To console people, that is basically normal. So I'd certainly imagine that's a strong wedge issue that Valve could actually use for the more value-oriented people. And a through line between everything I just said there is that it all works along with the framing of this as a console. And that's the whole point of a console. It's meant to just work.
Yeah.
A single bit of hardware that you buy, it plays games, there's no bullshit. I think that's essentially what they're going to get if we have a deck-like experience, and I do imagine that we will. So product-wise, I think they are playing an entirely different game than the game they were playing back in 2015 with the original Steam machines.
Yeah.
Where now everything is in-house. They're not relying on third-party manufacturers to ship on schedule. Consumers don't have 15 different versions to pick from. There are 2 versions to pick from. The only difference is the built-in storage. So effectively, this takes the Steam Deck approach and just applies it to a PC.
So we know the versions? There's only 2 versions of this, and the one has more storage than the other? There is no way this thing sells at $400. I don't know who the hell put that price at. That's insane. There's no way. So there, he's already telling us there's not going to be some like dulled down, stupid version of this that runs like a potato for a cheap amount of money. No, it's not. There's 2 versions. One has more memory than the other, and that's it. That's crazy. $800. If they do $800, I'd be shocked. If they 400, that would break the industry. I'll be honest.
giving you a console-like experience, and we know that experience works
800's a
because we've
loss.
seen this
400's
Steam
like
Deck work. Now, the
substantial.
last estimates put that device at around 4 million sales by February 2025. 4 million. That's a lot of testing. It's a lot of refining. But the Steam Deck may also suggest the few ways where this device could come up short. I have to imagine this is the type of thing Valve will want to be on top of. So one of the biggest responses to this has been that Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft had better watch out. Funny, I don't actually think Nintendo really need to watch out. They just have a strong moat.
Yeah,
But
they have
for the
IP.
other two, yeah, I can see them having to watch out because in a way, yes, there is a brand new console coming, and it's one that's going to reignite the console war and force everybody to improve. In an ideal world, lest Valve come in and steal all their lunch money. But the problem...
Yeah, well, the console wars are over. They really are. It's just now there's going to be PCs that you connect to your TV. Gone, I think, are the days of these enclosed console ecosystems. Microsoft already threw in the towel. They're like, we're done. If you want to play our shit, get Game Pass. We're not going to sell this separate console anymore. They are going to sell a mini PC. That's what they're going to do in 2027. But beyond that, they're not entering the console wars anymore. Nintendo is not really a console company as much as they are an IP company. They have intellectual property that people love, people grew up with, and that's what they sell you. They've never been on the cutting edge of hardware ever. They pack hardware into cool formats that you can play on the go and stuff, but they've never really been like this all-out, we're going to create the ultimate gaming machine. No, that's not what they are. They give you ways to interact with their IP. That's it. And that's why Nintendo kind of always sits fringe to this whole console war thing. They've never really competed directly. They're just like, we know who we are. We're Mario, we're Donkey Kong, and that's what people want to do, and that's what we're going to let them do. And that's all they've ever tried to be. And it's smart. For PlayStation and Sony, they're the ones who are really in trouble here. Because they're remaining like lone standing. We are a console company, and that's it. Sony obviously makes way more than that, but the PlayStation brand in general, I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't. They're just going to have to create like the most affordable entry-level gaming thing out there. Like, I think that's going to be their niche, and that's it. If Steam goes 400, there's no way Sony can compete with that, though. So we'll see. I really don't know what's going to happen with the PlayStation. Xbox is done. Nintendo's got their IP. PlayStation, they're sitting in a bit of a weird spot, I guess.
Trying to compete with PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox is that in terms of raw scale, Valve are not even in the same, league. Now, I think there is no doubt that the Steam machine will succeed. I don't think this will be a repeat of 2015. But Valve are distributing this the same way that they are distributing the deck, which is fairly good in many ways. It's one of the things that actually, I think, ensures the price is as strong as it is. But that also could be a little bit of a problem, because the biggest thing preventing Steam from taking a chunk out of the console market is they're not going to be in an electronics store. At least the Steam Deck's not an electronics store. So will people be able to go into Best Buy and just pick up one of these on a whim? Will they be able to buy it on Amazon? I would have to imagine probably not. Valve are going to distribute these devices from their store directly. This gives them control, and it also gives them whatever cut retailers would ask for. And that is huge. We've actually seen Gabe Newell directly talk about...
That's nice. The whole manufacturing process is kind of cool. But... yeah, Steam's always been that way. I mean, they've always cut out any other middleman. Like, Steam is a direct-to-consumer thing. That's what they did. They are the middleman. Steam is the middleman. That's what Valve is now. So they're not going to go through any store. Now, will that limit sales? If they sell it on Amazon, no. Everyone uses Amazon now. So, I mean, and ever since COVID, people have gotten used to shopping online. That's not a problem. Will it limit sales to nerds who only know about Steam? I'm not sure. The problem is, you got to capture the Call of Duty Andes, you know who I think of. They're not. I don't really call them real gamers. They're the jock bros who put on their headsets and say racial slurs while they play Call of Duty. That's who I think of. Those are the people they want to get, because those are the console guys that never really went to the PC market, and now Valve wants to capture those guys, bring them into the SteamOS shit. So we'll see how they capture. We'll see if they're good enough or how they advertise this thing to actually get people to go to the Steam website and buy this thing. I'm not sure. People like us who play games all the time, we'll know about it, obviously.
Well, the pain of getting the Steam Deck down to the price that it was. We know they were basically trying to go as low as they could. Obviously, a major part of that is optimizing the entire chain through to distribution. So in a world where you're not giving Jeff Bezos a bunch of money or Mr. Best Buy a bunch of money, well, then the console can be cheaper. Of course, you and I benefit from that. It means we get a cheaper console. But it also means the Steam machine can't possibly sell at the level of any existing console because those benefit from humongous distribution networks.
That's true.
Say Amazon. And the Steam Deck actually proves this. The deck has sold 4 million copies in 3 years, which is absolutely incredible. But modern consoles outsell it by a factor of 20. It has not even reached the levels of the Sega Dreamcast in terms of sales. Plus, some of the same SteamOS issues do still persist. I mean, the memes may boast about not having Fortnite and not having Call of Duty, but the whole thing with no kernel-level anti-cheat is a real big problem for mass adoption. And it's another reason why some of the existing consoles can maintain their positions, because some of those big games would actually be blocked by this.
I didn't realize you can't play Fortnite on the Steam Deck. That kind of is a big deal. I mean, you got to have the big titles on there. We could joke about Fortnite, but it certainly is a big piece of the market. And my son, he's 8 years old. He freaking plays Fortnite. So yeah, 75% off. Gamers know about Steam, even if they aren't on PC. Gamers through association. It's like a social media. Yeah, look, Lord Gabe has made a name for himself and the company. I agree. A lot of gamers know about Steam. Yes, I have family members who are console Andes, and they know about Steam too. Anyone who plays games probably does know about Steam, but just getting access to the console is a barrier. I mean, he's saying the numbers right now. It certainly is. If mom is walking around Sam's Club, grabbing her things, and she's thinking about getting little Johnny a Christmas gift, the PlayStation's right there. She's not going to know how to go to fucking Valve's website and buy this thing and what it even is. She's not going to know how to really understand. That's the market that you're going to be missing out on. Not necessarily somebody who considers themselves a gamer, but you're going to be missing out on just the casual person we want video games in our house, and they go to fucking Costco and buy a console. Like, that's not going to happen for Valve.
Level. But I think if Valve is able to get around the anti-cheat thing, well, then we really could be talking. But what we'd be talking about would massively depend on price. And currently, I just have absolutely no answer for you. There'll probably be another video whenever we find out about pricing.
Like, for example, I have a great example of this. My brother, his wife was thinking about getting him the Steam Deck for his birthday. Right? And she knew about it from him. Like, he had talked about it in front of her. Like, there's this really cool handheld PC called the Steam, but she couldn't figure out how to buy it. She had to ask me. Right? So if you don't have a Giga Chad like myself in your family, then you're just going to run into a wall. Like, she wasn't sure. She was like, oh, I looked on Amazon and I couldn't find it. And I checked Best Buy and they didn't have it either. So she couldn't figure out how to buy it. She hadn't asked me yet. I was like, oh, you can't do that. You have to go to their website to buy this thing. And so that whole thing threw her off, right? Like anyone else who doesn't have anybody to ask, that's it. They're done. They're going to hit a wall and they're not going to buy the thing. It does matter. It's hard for us to comprehend, but there are a lot of casual Andes out there who just don't understand the gaming market, don't really understand Steam, don't know how to go buy this thing. And that is a barrier for them.
But I would say that in a global economy where American tariffs or industry demands...
It is their greatest weakness at this point,
prices,
I think.
Sometimes seemingly out of nowhere... Well, Valve can be forgiven for
they don't deserve
confirming pricing too early. And I say that because even if they're comfortable taking a loss, maybe something that Counter-Strike knife sales alone could fund, the value does actually matter here, like the value for the end user. I think the use case for hardcore gaming enthusiasts like you or I at home will entirely depend on how this price feels.
Yeah,
I think Valve
price is everything.
Knows that. Yes, some people will get this instead of a console, but I think a lot of the initial sales are going to be people who love playing games on their PC
for sure.
And just want to extend that experience to another surface.
Yep.
Much in the same way that they would have done with a Steam Deck. And that means that at least at the start, Valve does not need to completely dominate with these devices. All they need to do is hit their own internal goals and carve off exactly as much market as they want. Because at the end of the day, there are no public shareholders to hold them accountable.
It's the best part about Steam.
To provide incentives to do silly things, right?
Yeah,
Valve
no Bobby Kotick's
is in control of itself. And I think that explains why the vibes of these announcements have been so important. Quite obviously, the vibes are good, but they're also a little bit aggro. I think people want to see a lot of the other players in the market get disrupted. I want to see that as well.
I do too.
And I'll say, even with our analyst
Competition's
hats on,
good for the
thinking
customer.
about how this fits into the current very fractured industry, it is at the very least still Valve impressively addressing their past mistakes. It truly seems they learned from the failure of the initial Steam machines, and not in a way where they just wanted to shit out better Steam machines within 3 years. No, they pretty much spent a decade getting things right. That is impressive, and it's something we don't see enough of. They're basically making something cool that people still want, something that fills a niche in people's interests. And for me, more than anything, it's nice to be excited about a new technology.
Yeah,
you know?
it is. It is
AI
exciting.
asterisks to this. Doesn't seem there are huge performance compromises. There isn't a new subscription fee attached to it. It seems this is just a cool bit of hardware designed to do one thing exceptionally well. And in 2025, I think that alone feels like a victory that is worth celebrating.
Yeah, it feels like a beginning of the end of the industry as it currently stands. Microsoft's announcement of the kind of the end of the Xbox essentially and heading more into a PC console version that's coming out in 2027. All these things feel like, wow, like here we're dropping the barriers finally. Like just buy something and play the games you love, and that's it. No longer is this stupid licensing going on where you got all these console exclusive shit. Also, like going online and actually playing with your friends no matter what they have. That was a big barrier too, because for a long time you Xbox guys only played with Xbox people. PC was only with PC people. PlayStation were locked up in their market. There was no cross online play, and all of that's even going away. So now really like the only barrier to entry is price points. How much money do you have to spend on a gaming thing, and what's the offers out there? If Valve offers a really good price point, they're going to get a lot of customers. If Microsoft does with their thing they're coming out with, they're going to get a lot of purchases too. So all of it really is just a big W for the gamers. That's what it is. It's just we've won. We're getting a lot of wins. We're stacking those wins, and gaming is only going to get better from here on out.
But for the subjects of one of our previous videos, I think
Steam brain implants,
complex about this. There's been some talk about Steam and whether it's a monopoly or not, and a recent survey that hit quite a lot of game executives, and we go into detail on it in this video.
Yeah, I mean, Steam. Look, Steam. The thing about a monopoly and the breakup of it, I can get into all the legal jargon of it right now and the politics behind it. A monopoly is only a problem when it harms the customer. That's when a monopoly needs to be broken up. If a monopoly benefits the customer, then it's okay. The government will not go and break up Steam. This is why Amazon hasn't really been broken up yet, because Amazon has proven time and time again that their entry into a market lowers the prices for the customer. And as long as they continue to do that, the government, the eye of Sauron, the government eye, will never look at them and go to break them up. So as long as Valve continues to benefit the gamers, they will never be broken up. That's just how it works. Now, if tomorrow all other platforms to sell games are gone and Steam raises the prices intentionally for all games, then they get broken up. That's how that shit works. So overall, I think Steam's been a good thing for us. It'll continue to be a good thing for us, and I'm really interested to see what the hell the price point is going to be of this thing. Wow, coming to console, boys. It's great. Great. Nice video from Bellular.